Woo! Okay. How's everybody doing? Okay, we've finished the intercession and now we're going to jump into our compatibility and incompatibility of signs. And today we are going to discuss Gemini and Taurus. Incompatibility of signs. Here we have fixed earth and mutable air. Now, these two signs usually don't work well together, like Taurus and Aquarius. That's probably like that's the 17th combination in the United States where you have this compatibility. And I personally know two couples with this combination, Taurus and Aquarius, that are still together, but they've had to work to keep it together. No different with Gemini and Taurus. You have to understand that Taurus is Earth, and Gemini and Aquarius are fellow air signs. So let's first discuss where we see this combination in nature. Right? We have to follow the routine, right? Virgo represents Taurus, represents fixed Earth, our planet itself, sitting in space, turning on its axis, and going around the ecliptic of the sun. Remember, there are two rotations going on with our sun. It is rotating on its own axis, which gives us day and night. And then it goes around the sun on its ecliptic, which gives us the year, broken down into 4 quarters, right? 3 months each, making 3 times 12. It's 12. 3 times 4. It's 4 quarters, and a quarter is represented by 3 months. So 3 times 4 is 12. They are the 12 signs. So the rotation of our Earth on its own axis is a daily or diurnal, what we call it, diurnal and nocturnal arc. Day and night. 12 hours at night, 12 hours in the day makes 24 hours. Technically, it's 23 hours, 57 minutes, and 2 seconds to be mathematically exact. Okay? And then you have the orbit around the sun. Another rotation. So we got 2 rotations. So our fixed Earth is not as fixed as you would like to pretend that it is. No? Because it's rotating. And the Earth, remember, the Earth is not in a 180 straight pole of 0 degrees. It's tilted. Our Earth is tilted, right? And it rotates this way. No, it rotates this way. It rotates at 23.5 degree tilt on the ecliptic, which defines our seasons. Without that 23.5 degree tilt of the Earth in space, we will not have the seasons of winter, spring, summer, fall. Understand that. Astrology involves a lot of math and a lot of precision. Okay? So, having understand that, God forbid that there is a change, although minuscule, in the temperature climate of our planet or in its tilt, it can be disastrous. Disastrous. 1 degree difference in climate change can literally get us away from the Goldilocks zone where life is balanced and perfect and plunges into an ice age or plunges into a tropical scenario that can literally destroy the planet with absorption of water and moisture and humidity. Just as effectively if the earth were to stand still. So, not much compromise if we are to relate this fixity order of nature, of our planet, of nature, to the human personality. Not much flexibility there for any kind of change or modification. Thank God that the earth is tilted at 23.5 degrees. Can you imagine if it was tilted at 24, 25 degrees? Do you think that we're going to have that beautiful Goldilocks zone of balance of nature with the cosmos? Life will not be here. We will be annihilated. 1 degree difference! Talk to a cosmologist. Talk to a space scientist. Call NASA. They'll tell you. That's how delicate the fabric of life is. And you got to think that way when you're dealing with the psychology of Taurus, whose psychological and temperamental nature is very delicate. Taurus can get very upset and very hurt very easily by almost doing nothing. Taurus got to be taken seriously. When there's an earthquake in our planet anywhere on its grid, we're panicking. We can lose our lives. We can lose government property or personal property, structures, you know what I'm saying? It costs money when there's an earthquake because things have to be rebuilt. Life is delicate. Very, very delicate. Taurus has a routine that he doesn't deviate from or she. But the same thing can be said of nature. Winter, spring, summer, fall. I remember when I was a child, growing up in the late 70s, before the glorious period of the 80s, when the 80s came about when I was 11 years old. In 1980, I was 11 years old. And you felt it. You felt the shift from 1979 to 80. It was a different shift. It was a different shift. All of a sudden, there was dancing in the air. There was something joyful and exciting and hopeful and futuristic and beautiful. I can't begin to, everybody describes their own upbringing in their case in a special way. I was blessed to have been raised in the 80s, which was the Leo period, when things were great and grand. This generation today will never experience that. They will never know what it was like it was to be in the 80s. They will never know. And it wasn't meant for them to ever know, because they would have been born in that decade, in that period, had they needed to experience that. And you have to understand that, and I mentioned Leo because Leo is a fixed sign just like Taurus, just like Aquarius, and just like a Leo. Okay? Leo, Taurus, Aquarius, and Scorpio is what I meant. Ooh, the cognac's getting to me a little bit. Okay, but understand that these are the fixed signs like Taurus and Leo and Scorpio and Aquarius are waters, a moment in time where things don't change and we can sit back with our cognac and enjoy it. Enjoy it. Because nothing remains permanent or stagnates in nature. Things either, like, what did I say? What do I say? Things either evolve or degenerate in nature. Nothing stands still in nature. Even though we got the fixed signs and they represent stillness, the stillness is an illusion because it's only temporary. It's only temporary. So when we ascribe this to the human personality and the human ego of Taurus, understand that the psychological and emotional well-being of Taurus lies on its systemic continuity and routine. The same with Scorpio and Leo and Aquarius. Even though Leo and Aquarius can be a little bit more flexible, there is tremendous amount of inflexibility when you're dealing with the earth signs and the water signs, believe it or not. Scorpio and Taurus, those are the most two inflexible, unyielding, uncompromising, unmoving signs of the fixity triad or quadriad, because it's four. So when you're in a relationship with a Taurus, man or woman, you're coming into a solid structure. If you had to relate it to a structure of nature, we will relate Taurus to granite. Not limestone, but granite. Granite is strong. The World Trade Center, the Twin Towers before they collapsed. And now we got that one and the Empire State Building. And even in Chicago, all the big high rises going on up there, supported by granite. You think New York City will be able to support these high structures if it didn't have granite in the structure? We will be sinking right into the Atlantic Ocean. Okay? So granite can be symbolic of the strength and structure of Taurus, both physically and mentally, psychologically. Because you ain't going to get the Taurian to move if you don't want to move. Okay? So now let's shift to Gemini. Gemini is fun, flirty, mutable air, changeable, unpredictable. Come on. You fill in the blanks. How's that going to work with someone who's so fixed and centered psychologically, remember, and then externally to the process of routine? The routine gotta exist in the head, in the mind, before it can be expressed outward. If there's a disruption in routine with Taurus, it will fuck him up here. So when we're dealing with Gemini, do you really think that Gemini is gonna pay attention? Do you really think Gemini is gonna be that sympathetic, that emphatic, that conscientious about the needs of Taurus, of the Taurian? And now, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to make Gemini look bad. But like Scorpio, Gemini is who or she is. It's air. It's mutable air. Mutable means changeable. There's no consistency. But that works for Gemini. That works for Gemini. It doesn't work for Taurus. And a couple in which you have someone that's relies on continuity and systemic routine in order to define its life and meaning, involved with someone who doesn't even consider, even look at that as a value system because they come from their own set of values. They might not even respect that philosophy of the Taurian because it seems boring, predictable, and sedentary. Now, I did mention in my other videos that very well may be the case with the earth signs. The earth signs is the slowest vibratory force of all the four elements. But we need it to be slow so that we can enjoy, at least in one moment in time, the beauty of what we are experiencing, what we are incarnating on this journey, on this planet. Things cannot be moving constantly. Otherwise, there's no room to learn. We have to, as human beings, absorb what we see and experience so that we can reflect and then learn from it. And that's what the principle of Taurus awards us. It's important. Unfortunately, not so much with Gemini. Gemini is not concerned about that. Could give a shit about it. Gemini is about fun, having fun, flirting, and keeping things fluid, light, and changeable. Because for Gemini, that is the best medium to learn and absorb knowledge. Remember, Gemini is about the absorption of knowledge. And that absorption of knowledge cannot come at a head of rigidity or fixity, which is what the Taurus energy suggests. So with this combination, it's about striking a balance. But here we go again. That depends on so many other factors. The level of maturity, the level of personal maturity, evolution, how old the couple is. Are they young? Are they below 30 or after 30? A woman Gemini is different from a man Gemini. A man Taurus is different from a woman Taurus. So you have these factors to throw in. I'm going to tell you, if we're dealing with a combination of Taurus, man, and a Gemini woman, the Gemini woman will love the Taurian man and be dedicated to him. But she's not always going to follow his beat. She's not always going to follow his rhythm. You have to understand that the signs of the zodiac have a rhythm to them. In theory. Now, this is where theory and practice can clash. The divider is age and experience. This depends not on the signs, but on the astrologer. The age and experience and educational level of the astrologer. Okay? It's not always about the signs. There might be other social factors or other factors outside of the field of astrology that have to be added in order to make sense of the entire holistic picture. Okay? We know that with Taurus, there's a certain level of continuity that needs to be there, or that's going to fuck with the Taurian psychological well-being. The Taurus man and the Taurus woman have to have a certain level of comfortability in order for them to feel at peace with themselves and with their environment. The Gemini energy is a disruption of that. Not because the Gemini wants to be, but because Gemini is a mutable air sign that's changeable. And it's all over the place. But Gemini needs to be all over the place because that is the best way that it absorbs. In fact, you have Aries, Taurus, and Gemini. Taurus creates a structure in which things are solid and stable. And then from that, springboard creativity, which is expressed by Gemini. You can be creative and artistic and expressive once you got your bills paid, once you got things in order. And Taurus represents that permanence and that sense of responsibility of keeping a solid ground structure. Not just physically, but psychologically. And this is something that can be very useful to Gemini. Both the Gemini man and the Gemini woman. But if you're dealing with a Taurus man and with a Gemini woman, the Taurian man will be able to teach the Gemini woman these principles, not by talking about it, because the Taurian man is not going to talk about it. He's going to show you. And whether you catch it or learn at his speed, it doesn't really matter. The Taurian man, if you're dealing with a Taurian man and a Gemini woman, the Taurian man will be patient. And he'll tolerate a lot of shit from the Gemini woman. Even downright abuse. He'll cry and pain in the inside, but won't show it outwardly. The Gemini woman will be oblivious. But the good thing is that the Gemini woman will eventually learn and then fall in place. But when that happens, it's usually due to a tragedy or some kind of crisis. Remember, the opposite polarity of Taurus is Scorpio, the sign of crisis. Woo! Woo! So, something of a soap opera nature may have to occur, a tragedy that will cause the Gemini woman to snap out of her oop-oop-be-doop and get and ball or grow up. Because remember, Gemini is the eternal child. The eternal child. But at some point, the Gemini woman will grow up. When she's slapped, ow, 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 with enough crisis, the bitch will grow up. Especially if we're dealing with a woman below age 30. But then again, well, if you're dealing with a Gemini woman above age 30, she could still exude. Oh my God, how many Gemini women do I not know that in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s still act very dainty and very, I love that though. They stay eternally young. I know a woman, a friend of mine, her name is, well, I can't mention her name, I don't have her permission. She's fucking 70 years old and she looks like she's 30 and acts like a, woo! So, Gemini, and that's good for Taurus. Taurus can be melancholic, sad, and a little depressed. And that's true of all of the earth signs, And, that could be tough to deal with. That could be tough to deal with. How do you handle that? Now, let's flip it. If it is then a Taurus woman and a Gemini man, that's where it gets a little more interesting. That's where it gets more interesting. Because the Taurus woman don't tolerate bullshit. The Taurus man will be more tolerant and will endure, and he will be in pain. But as the man, he'll rough it, and he'll take it with pride and dignity. The Taurus woman, fucking hell to the no. She'll curse you out, bitch you out, fuck you out, throw you out, and replace you with a better nigga. Pardon the French. The Taurus woman is not going to waste time. Once she sees that you're no good, she will proceed to get rid of you. And once she's on that cross, you ain't going to do nothing to stop her. You're gone. You're done. The Taurus woman will not tolerate what the Taurus man will tolerate. So you have to ask yourself, who's the boss? Who's the boss? Well, certainly the Taurus woman. And if we flip it, the Taurus man, Gemini woman, the Gemini woman will be in control of a Taurian man. The Taurian men don't like crisis, don't like drama, don't like change, don't like disruption. So he'll try to endure and iron through the crisis and the variable changes that are going on around him. He'll cling his hooves onto the earth and make sure that he stays solid while the storm is withering all around him, all about him, which the Gemini woman will usually bring to his footsteps by just being who she is. Now that can be fascinating and fun. Let me tell you, I've dated Gemini women, and let me tell you, never do I've experienced a dull moment with these women. Like the Leo woman or the Gemini woman. Just delicious to be with. Because they provide, variety. And they provide challenge. And they provide different assets and facets of personality and ego. And I love that. Because it's an expression of the total threshold of the human experience that we can embody in a single act or in a single lifetime. And that is the beauty of God within us expressed outwardly. The only way we can know God is by knowing who we are and notice how we interact and relate to each other. That all is part of the symbiogy and the puzzle of understanding who God is. Okay? This combination does better and does well over time as they get older. And if they weather the storm, they can be fantastic together. The Taurus will provide the Gemini woman a sense of permanence and stability, or the Taurus woman to her Gemini man can provide a haven where if the Gemini man is a hustler, a street whore, he'll go out and be with everybody else and not even come home for days or weeks, but he'll know that he's got that Taurus woman waiting for him, and he'll come back like if he had never left. She provides a haven for the Taurus man while he goes out being a whore, while he does best. And we're done with part 1.